Page 11, Waltz. On this lesson, I'm introducing you to a term called accidentals. We've had accidentals for a while. An accidental is not an accident. An accidental is something that's just temporary. It's a sharp, flat, or a natural. Those are the three accidentals we've had. There are more. Don't worry about them. You don't see them very often. That's fine. But sharps, flats, and naturals, when they appear in the music, most of the time, they're an accidental. I say most of the time because sometimes they'll put them in the music as a courtesy sign. Even though they're in the key signature, they might also put it in the music just as a courtesy. Those are not accidentals. That's just a courtesy sign. The accidental is when you need it. Yeah. Or they think you need it, I'm not sure. People don't agree on a lot of this stuff, and they're not going to agree with everything I'm saying here, and that's fine. You're welcome to disagree all you want to. I really don't care. But we teach as we were taught, so this is where we're going. And different people had different teachers, and they were taught differently, so that's how they teach differently. And they don't agree. They've never agreed and never will, I'm sure. Accidentals, people don't agree on accidentals. Let's just take a brief history now on accidentals. Since they opened it up, I'm going to talk about it. Bore you, music notation has evolved over the centuries. It has evolved. A sharp and a flat was considered relative. That is, a sharp would take it up a half step from where the note is, no matter what. And it would stay there indefinitely until you got a different sign to tell you to do something different. Same with a flat. It would take it down a half step, but it would stay there for the rest of the piece or until it told you to do something different. Natural signs didn't exist. We didn't need them. Because let's say, look in the last measure, the first line. You see the G sharp? Where it would normally be a G natural. They wanted a G sharp. Well, back then, that G sharp would last for the rest of the piece. Wouldn't need to say it anymore. All the G's from then on would be G sharps. If they wanted a G natural again, they would have to put a flat sign in it before it to take it down a half step. And that would act like the natural sign to take it back. They were relative. If they wanted the sharp to go up again, they would give it another sharp. And you'd go up another half step. So it was relative as to where it's at. Well, in the 1700s, that sort of evolved out, and now it's more like the rules we have today, although people don't agree on the rules we have today. Today, for accidentals, the accidental, the sharp, flat, or natural, it applies from the point it's shown for the rest of that measure in that staff, and that's it. Once you cross the bar line to another measure, it's no good anymore. That's why at the end of the first line on the G sharp, they give you a sharp sign. In the second line, in the second measure, they give you another sharp sign. That's because the first sharp sign only applied to that measure. Now, hundreds of years ago, if they gave you another sharp sign like that, you'd take it up again. You'd take it up and play that. But today, it's just for the measure it's in. Now, there's an exception to that. I'll get to that when we get to the exception. So it applies to there and only in that staff. Now the part where people don't agree, just so you're aware, because you may be reading or talking to somebody and they say, that's not right. Been there, done that. For piano players, we need that sharp sign in front of every note name. That's that note name anywhere. So let's say in the last measure, the first line, that G sharp, if I had a G in another octave, whatever, I need a sharp sign in front of that also. Let's pretend that in the last measure of the first line, you're here. Instead of an E, it is a G down here. Here, let's pretend the music said that. So we have two G's. I need a sharp sign in front of both. Even though they're in the same staff, I could write them in the same staff. Other instruments like violins, this is where I got into where they say no, that sharp sign applies to the note name. It doesn't matter where it is. So they would do it, And they don't need another sharp sign for the bottom one. They would just do it. I used to share a stand with a violin teacher, violin and viola, excellent teacher, excellent player, played in the symphony orchestra, newer stuff. And we had a passage where this happened, and I was playing the natural for the second note because there was no accidental in front of it. And she said, no, that's not correct. It is this. That applies to both. And I said, I'm a piano player. Piano players need them on both. No, it's for both. That's the way it is. That is the rule, absolute rule. That's the way it is. And she was adamant that that's the way it was. She couldn't understand that, no, people don't agree on that. So you're going to run across people who do or don't agree on stuff. Let them believe what they want and keep going. Now, after all that mess, let's talk waltz. I look it over. It's 4 lines long. Clef signs are treble and bass clef. Key signature is no sharps or flats in the key signature. We're either in C major or A minor, although it tells you in the title the waltz in A minor, so we know we're in A minor. But do the scales for both, the C major and the A minor scale, and probably should be doing the arpeggios also. Now, if you know the arpeggio, if you've been doing it, the tremolo exercise, the accents and all, then go ahead and start doing it 2 octaves. But make sure you're doing the tremolo exercise and the accents. Those will do you the most good. If you haven't been doing the arpeggio, just stick with 1 octave. Just learn the notes in the arpeggio. There's a lot of arpeggios, and I cover the main arpeggio for the key. C major and A minor arpeggios. You don't need to do the diminished 7th, although it wouldn't hurt. But it's really the arpeggios for the key signature we're after. And 3/4 time, which we would expect it to be in 3/4 time because it is a waltz. 1 hand at a time, so make sure we got the fingering and all worked out. You're starting out here in the right hand. That's here. And 1 and 2 and 1 and. And then I want 3rd finger again. They're keeping you in a nice, neat 5-finger position. I mean, that's really handy. It's nice to know. It's comfortable. It's a beginner's fingering. We got to start getting out of that. The process that I use to learn a piece of music at first is I try and connect everything. I want a fingering that works connecting the notes because that's usually a more reliable fingering, especially if I get nervous. Now again, people don't agree on this. Some teachers will say, no, we don't want to spread out because that causes tension and we don't want any tension. So we want a closed position. That's where your hand is, right? Fingers are next to each other. Closed position. So they would say, this is good, just come down. So you're staying in this nice closed position. I was taught differently and I teach differently. I want to connect it. So I tend to walk around and I spread out and scrunch up or whatever I need to do. I don't find it all that tense. As long as I don't stay there for a long period of time, that will. So in here, since I'm here, I'm going to just use thumb. It's here, and then scrunch up 2. Instead of 3rd finger, I just use thumb, and then 4. So this lets me connect them. Then during the rest, you're already there. And then for the 3rd line, I want you back up here. Well, because of the articulation and all, it's in a phrase, you can lift up, you can do that. I just don't like having to use the same finger like that. So I want to teach you a little more advanced fingering here. They'll get to it maybe, I don't know. But it comes in handy. And again, people don't agree on this either. Some people avoid it at all costs and other people use it a lot. Organ players use it a lot. I use it a lot. I think it's wonderful. I think you should get good at it. And that is called a finger substitution. So the last 2 measures of the 2nd line, I'm going to play that with 3rd finger. While I'm holding it down, I'm going to put thumb on it. Here. I substituted the thumb. Here. Usually do it immediately. There's no hurry. You just do it. This way, I'm ready to go on 3rd finger for the 3rd line. Here. Same fingering from then on. Now in the last line, 2nd finger or 2nd measure, thumb here. So, but this way you're in position for the last note is just reach up for the A. You can, if you would like, use that fingering in the second line. Here. You can just play that with thumb if you want. It gives you a little bit of practice at finger substitutions, and you got plenty of time to do it. This is a good point to start. So I would encourage you to go ahead and do the finger substitution. In fact, if you'd like, you could do the finger substitution on the bottom line. Do it there too. So if you want to be consistent, do that, even though you can play it with thumb anyway. It's good practice, that's all. You're just going back and forth. You should be able to finger substitute just about any finger to any finger, and we'll get more into it maybe if the book died. Left hand. The left hand got these broken chords. Because if you take all the notes in the first measure, that's an A minor chord. That's the notes in the arpeggio that I teach. Okay, so then just come down one, full one, and reach down. You have to lift up, move. And again, now you can use fourth finger in the second line because you're here. It's easier to use 4 than 5. And then 5. Now in the third line, second measure, they give you a natural sign. I'm not sure why. It's a G natural anyway. You don't need the natural sign. Just playing that G natural. Doesn't hurt being there. I just don't know why it's there. Okay. Next to the last measure at the bottom, those C sharps. Both of those are sharps because the sharp sign applies for the rest of the measure. It's an A and an E at the bottom. You need to know these notes, names. I trust you do. Then I try to put the hands together, and at first I'm going to hesitate all over. I don't care. It's just here, here, and then here, and here. So forth. I'll go through and put the hands together. Then go back over it very slowly and carefully and get rid of any hesitation so it's a steady beat. Once I can do that, then I'll add in the articulation. We have slurs and staccatos. Hinging at the wrist for the staccato, they're short. Okay, that last note on the first line is not staccato. So put in these slurs and staccatos, and then the dynamics. That applies to the melody, which is the right hand in this case. MF at the beginning is mezzo forte, which is sort of loud. Whatever you think, not loud, just sort of loud. These chords need to be soft, so I'm sort of heavy here, and I'm light here. Again, if you struggle with this control of being heavy and light and whatever, do it when you're practicing the scales. Practice playing one hand louder than the other, and then take turns as to which hand is loud with the scales. And we get the hairpins in the second, the last two measures of the first line. You're going to go up, and then you come back down. It's a swell up and back down. You're going to go up to loud for the C's, and back down. So in the third measure, the first eighth note, I'm still moderately loud here. You don't change at the beginning of the arrow. You change when you get into the arrow. So moderately loud, loud, louder, loud, loud. And the next measure, the first eighth note is still loud. Because again, I don't change at the beginning of the arrow. I change in the arrow. So I'm loud. It's a little softer back down. Yeah, something like this. It's approximate. You feel it. And then second line is an echo. The left hand's very soft. And here, because I have the hairpins in the second line, well, I can't do anything with the right hand. It just dies away. It's the left hand. You're soft or very soft, come up to about moderately soft. Then come back down. There. But whatever you do, don't drown out the A. That's melody. We want to hear it. And it's soft. And then the third line's like the first line, moderately loud. And the last line is similar to the second, where you're soft until the end. You go down to very soft. Soft. And then softer. And very end, very soft. You're on the key, you bounce it off, just real light, both hands. You need to get into it and get comfortable with it where you can feel these dynamics. And then the speed, andante, again, that's kind of a leisure stroll. You're walking someplace, but you're not headed anywhere. You're just walking. Yeah? Remember the natural accents. 1, 2, 3, 1. Exaggerate them if you have to. Feel these. 1, 2, 3. It's really important. Let's play this together very slowly to check the notes and the rhythms. This is after you can play it with no hesitations, okay? Don't try and learn it in the play with me. Learn it first and check it with the play with me, just to make sure you have the right notes and rhythms. I'm not going to do any louds and softs. We're not performing it. I'll do the staccatos and slurs, though. I'll give us 3 counts. 1, ready, and go, and. Rest, rest.